This is a review of graphing parallel lines. You only need half of the sheet. The other part was just a copy. So we're going to fold this in half this way. I'm going to remind you that you need to pause the video if I'm writing too fast for you. And this is a review. What we're looking at here first is how to write the equation of parallel lines. The first thing that we need to know is the slope. The slope for this one, and if you happen to have a highlighter, highlight. Or pause the video to get a highlighter if you need to. The slope is 2, so we're going to use 2. So for parallel lines, we need the same slope. So if you want to write it bigger here, parallel lines. And this is just a review. We won't have homework for this section until later, but I needed to go over this with you. The other thing that we need is the y-intercept. So I'm going to have you right over here, solve for b. How do we solve for b? We're going to use all of these values that they give us. This is an x value, so right underneath it, put an x. And this is a y value. So we're going to put a y value right underneath it. And we're going to substitute in the values to the equation y is equal to mx plus b, where we're going to be solving for the b. First, y. Y is that 2 right here because it's a y value. M is 2 because that's the given slope that we needed. X is this given value right here because that's an x value. And then we do plus b. We now solve for b. We need to multiply 2 times a -1, which gives you a -2, plus b. We're going to add 2 to both sides. 4 is equal to b. With that information, now we have the 2 equations that we will see if they're parallel. The first one, and we're going to call it y1, so if you want to put a 1 right here so you know where it came from, is the one given to us, 2x minus 3. The second equation is the one that we solved for. The second equation we solved for told us that the slope had to be 2 because it has to be the same, and you still write an x. And then we solved for the b. And there was a positive 4, so we're going to write plus 4. To remind you how to graph lines, this is the y-intercept. That means it crosses the y-axis at -3. 1, 2, 3. This number right here tells you how to move. And so you're going to go up 2 and to the right 1. Where did I get that 1 from? Well, dividing by 1 doesn't change the value, but we need a left and right movement. So up 2, 1, 2, to the right 1. You can do it again if you would like. 1, 2, and to the right 1. And that helps you line up your ruler better. I would like it for your lines to go past the graphs. Make sure that you put arrowheads at the ends because there are lines. The next one, the y-intercept is 4. That means that at the y, we go to 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then this movement would be up 2 and to the right 1. Usually when students don't see that the graph can keep going, I ask them to pretend like there's more graphs, so that would be about another one, and then 2 and 1 to the right. What you can also do is do -2 over -1, because when that reduces, that is still the slope of 2. That means down 2, 1, 2, and to the left 1 because it's negative. You don't have to do that if you don't understand. Okay, you line it up. My lines look crooked, sorry about that, but they should be parallel lines. All right, inside, we have this side over here. This is parallel lines. The first thing that we need is the slope. This one gives us the slope right here. So we know that we're going to use 3 because it has the same slope. Parallel lines have the same slope. Then the other thing that I asked for you to do is solve for b. The values that we need to use are the -1 is an x value, the -2 is a y value. And we substitute it in. Y corresponds with the -2 because it's a y value. M has to be 3 because it's the same slope. X is the -1 because it's an x value. And we're solving for b, so we leave it plus b. Simplify this, we got -2 is equal to 3 times -1 is a -3 plus b. We're going to add 3 to both sides because this had a -3. That gives me a 1 is equal to b. From here, we have the 2 equations needed. The first equation is the equation that they give us, so I put a 1 and call it y1. This was 3x minus 2. y2 is the equation we solved for. It has to have the same slope, so we're going to write 3x. Since we got a +1, a +1 for b, we write +1. To graph. The first one starts at a -2 on the y-axis, making it the y-intercept. 1, 2. Then how we move is up 3 and to the right 1. 1, 2, 3. Oops. Sorry, it's a -2. We need to start at a -2. -2 is down here. And then move up 3. 1, 2, 3, and to the right 1. I would like it that you go past your graph and make arrows at the end. I also like to call this one y1. So when I grade you, it's easier for me to grade, identifying which equation is which. Then +1 is a +1 on the y-axis. We're going to go up 3 and to the right 1. 1, 2, 3, and to the right 1. That's enough to draw the line. Please go past the graph, put arrowheads at the end, and this one is y2. For the next one, this one is not ready for us to know what the slope is, so we have to get it ready. We're going to write 2x minus 3y is equal to 6. And I want you to write set it up. We have to set it up correctly so it reads like a y is equal to mx plus b. I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides, and I'm going to write it all the way over here because these two don't go together. I'm left with a negative 3y is equal to, and I have a positive 6 minus 2x. But to set it up correctly, I'm going to write negative 2x, and since 6 was positive, put plus 6. Now I'm going to divide by 3 to everything. Y is equal to 2/3 x minus 2. That means, that's what I want you to highlight, that this is the slope that we need for our second equation, 2/3. I also want you to highlight this 3 right here. This is a y value, And since the x is 0, this is our y-intercept. So I want you to put the arrow right underneath the 0 and say, this makes it a y-intercept. Because the x is 0, the y value becomes our y-intercept. Making our first equation, y1, the one that was given to us but we had to fix, 2/3 x minus 2. y2 was the one we solved for. It has to have the same slope, 2/3, make sure to write an x. And they give us the y-intercept this time, and it was a positive 3, so we write plus 3. To graph, we start at the negative 2. We go up 2, and to the right 3. Make sure you go past the graph, put arrows at the end, and call it y1. For the next one, you have a positive 3 as your y-intercept, 1, 2, 3. You're going to go up 2, 1, 2, and over 3 to the right, 1, 2, 3. Connect the dots, make sure you go past the graph, make arrowheads, call it y2. That is the review of parallel line.